Hi guys, I just wanted to talk to you today about different types of muscle contractions. It seems to be something that we've struggled with in class, so I wanted to just make sure that I could set this video of just something for a couple of minutes and recap some knowledge. So, in terms of muscle contractions, there's only three types of muscle contraction you need to know for your VCERT. You've got your isometric contraction and then two types of isotonic contraction. The reason that we remember isotonic is if you look at the picture in the middle, we think of isotonic drinks giving us energy, and energy allows us to move. So anytime we're looking at an isotonic contraction, it's one where there's a change in length because of movement. So the muscle will contract, it'll change length, and that'll go either shorter or longer. If it's going longer, we think of eccentric, elongate, so something getting longer, so the length is longer, and that's isotonic eccentric. So isotonic meaning there's movement, and the movement that's happening is it's getting longer, isotonic eccentric. The opposite one being isotonic concentric, and the way that we remember that is concentric starts with a C, same as collapse, and when something collapses it gets smaller, and that's how we remember that. So it's isotonic concentric, meaning it gets smaller, isotonic eccentric, meaning it gets larger, and then the last one you need to know. And then the last one that we need to look at is isometric contraction, and like I said, isometric contraction is where there is no movement, so there's no change in length. Now the muscle will contract, but it'll just stay the same size effectively. Right, and let's look at some applications of these contractions. So this is isometric contraction. Now again, if you remember what I said, the muscle is still contracting, but it isn't changing length, so there's no movement really happening. So in image at the top left, as I see it, is a woman doing a plank. Again, here we've got the rectus abdominis, which are abdominal muscles contracting, but they aren't changing length, they're not getting longer or shorter, so it can't be isotonic contraction, therefore it's isometric contraction. The same in the next image to the right, it's a rugby scrum. Because the forces are equal from both sides of the scrum, they're both pushing at each other, there's no movement happening. The muscles, the quadriceps, the hamstrings, they are still contracting to try and generate force and power, but they're not actually getting shorter or longer at this moment, as long as the force is equal. Then we've got the rings in gymnastics, where the person is holding himself in the crucifix position. Here we've got the muscle of the deltoid, and I would argue the latissimus dorsi contracting, holding them in that position. And again, the muscles are contracting, but they're not changing length because we want to stay in the same position. And then finally, we have the isometric chair. And in the isometric chair, we see the same thing, which is an individual where the quadriceps and hamstrings are contracting to hold them in position, but they aren't changing length. Now, if the muscles weren't contracting, they wouldn't be able to hold the position, they'd just fall down, they'd sit down on the floor, which isn't what's happening in this image. And then let's have a quick look now at a few examples of isotonic contractions. So isotonic contractions, like I've said, can either be concentric or eccentric. Concentric, collapse, getting shorter. Eccentric, elongate, getting longer. Now, if we just take one of these images, and I'll start with the middle image, which is the person doing the bicep curl. Bicep curl can be broken into two phases. So you've got the upward phase, which is where the arm goes through flexion, so the joint gets smaller, or you've got the downward phase, which is where the joint goes through extension, and the joint angle gets larger. Now, in the first phase, the upward phase, the bicep actually gets smaller. Now remember, if the bicep's getting smaller while it's contracting, that would be classed as an isotonic concentric contraction. And during the extension phase for the bicep's actually getting longer. Now we think longer, elongate, that would be eccentric, so it's isotonic eccentric contraction. Now during this upward and downward phase, there isn't just the bicep that works, there's also the tricep, which is located at the back of the arm. So let's look at it now for the tricep. So in that upward phase, as the bicep's getting shorter, the tricep is actually getting longer. So that tricep will be classed as isotonic eccentric contraction. And again, the opposite, when we extend the arm, the tricep is actually contracting and getting smaller. So that'd be isotonic concentric contraction.